Hey, welcome back to another episode of Geek Centurions. It's your boy Eli,
It's me, Joe.
and we're here to talk about Andor episode. Was it 4?
We are at episode 4, yes.
Damn, it feels a lot faster. Dang, we did get like
We got like a huge...
we got hit with a lot in episode 1 to 3.
Just an explosion of Andor.
A literal explosion, and there's also the new episode of She-Hulk, which is is gonna be going down as one of my favorite episodes so far. But yeah, we're gonna be talking about those 2 episodes right now. We'll start off with Andor because A comes before S. So yeah,
It also came out a day before the She-Hulk episode. So
sure, if you want to go with that.
I mean, yeah, I'm just saying. But yeah, so this episode of Andor, we pick up more or less where we left off. With I gotta forget the guy's name.
Cassian.
No, not Cassian. I know who Andor is.
Yeah.
The dude who saved him.
Yeah. Basically, those 2 together.
Yeah, and he essentially sort of like, he's like, I have a job for you, you know, because we see Cassian is very sort of like I think we talked about it in the previous episode. He's a bit not nihilistic.
He's very like yeah, this is the way life is. I'm not gonna like try and do anything to it.
Yeah, it's like it's better to like live,
Yeah.
to like do what you want to do rather than like worry about having to fight the Empire and stuff. And he's very he's very confronted, sort of like, hey, listen, all right, you hate, like, listen, even if you say all that stuff, you don't believe it. You've been fighting the Empire constantly. And he even has a very poignant line, which is interesting, given how, Cassian's life sort of goes up being. He's like, listen, you're going to die fighting, the Empire. Why not do it while doing something, useful?
And some would argue fighting the Empire is useful.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's kind of funny that he says that, knowing the trajectory of where his story is going. But also, it just like instills the fact of what we talked about, in that he kind of has to do it to survive, but also like one, it's a cause worth fighting for, you know.
Also, I just quickly looked up. It's Luthen, because he's played by Stalin Starsgrad.
Skarsgård.
Yeah, he's
One of the Skarsgård brothers.
yeah.
So it's obviously that's again, like, he's trying to give him like a life lesson, and he's trying to get him to work with these people, and essentially that becomes a whole episode for Andor. Side plot is essentially that of, more of the bureaucracy that goes into
The Empire.
yeah, which is kind of funny because I just now noticed that there's 2 actors from Game of Thrones. Like the new guy whose name I'm blanking out on, the old man. He had a role in Game of Thrones. He was the sort of like the High Sept, sort of this religious no, that's not him.
I was gonna say, isn't he the Lannister dad?
No, that's not. That's another. You're thinking of a different character.
Oh, okay.
Of a different actor, but no, he's this like science dude who's like been banned from like the group because he's like, you're a little crazy, man. You literally Frankenstein this man.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I think he does look familiar.
Yeah, and then the former guy in charge, the story, the guy's story who was following, whose name I'm forgetting.
Yeah. Let me look it up real quick. I think it's. They say it like Cam or something.
Yeah, that guy. His superior was also in the Game of Thrones. He was the guy in charge of the Army of the Vale. But yeah, no, those 2. It just kind of threw me off for a second. Like, oh shit, we got like 2 Game of Thrones lumps in here. But yeah, no, his is more of like, okay, yeah, you fucked up, but you're not in the wrong, but you fucked up.
Yeah. It's it's sort of like what his superior was hoping wasn't gonna happen, because it's like, hey, if the Empire sees all the stuff we're doing, they're gonna be like, you guys are clearly incompetent and don't know what you're doing. We'll handle this. And it's like, he's like, yeah, this is like what, the 3rd incident, and this is the worst of the bunch. Yeah, no, this whole area is under Imperial control. You guys can go home. We're not firing you, but just let you know.
We're gonna give you a slap on the wrist.
Yeah, it's like, this is our turf now. You don't worry about it anymore.
Don't worry about it at all.
Yeah.
But like, essentially, we get a little bit of the house. I think the old boy lives with his mom,
Yeah, I think that's what that was because
or
was
he has
like,
to go live with his mom now.
yeah, which I'm gonna be honest, it's just a very, I don't know, it's just kind of funny. It puts things into perspective.
Does it?
Well, I mean, for him, maybe
Mm-hmm.
it's like he was trying to go up on this ranks of this security
Mm-hmm.
detail, only to like be responsible for a bunch of casualties, and then he sort of has to go back to living with his mom.
Fair enough.
It's just like, well, shit. How did I get up here? How did this? How did my life get this way?
Yeah, no, that is kind of funny. But essentially, like that's the B plot. But it's also just it's kind of gearing up to more big events. Um, how do you feel about Andor so far? Now that we've been watching 4 episodes of this show.
I think I said it in our when we talked about the first 3 episodes. I really like it. It is, I think, a truly different take on
Mm-hmm.
Star Wars universe. Just seeing that sort of grassroots rebellion kind of like gritty stuff that we probably saw in Rogue One that I think a lot of people liked about that, and so we're getting to see explore more of that here.
Mm-hmm.
I just really like it. I like all the characters, especially since I do like how Luthen has this sort of like double life of being like what seems to be
Right,
like,
right, right. That was the big twist at the end.
yeah, where he's living on Coruscant, being this museum collector kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like he sells like a bunch of antiques. He has an antique shop, and he meets Mon Mothma,
Yeah.
and like that's his connection to like getting funding to help this resistance and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
the rebellion. And she's literally just like, I can't really trade, I can't really transfer money right now. Like they're on to me, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, hey, listen, all right, I need to, I got a bunch of different groups all doing things. We need the money to get this, keep this rolling.
Right, because like I guess like I think it goes back to what you were saying. Like the interesting part of this show is seeing the different like not perspectives, but like points of like where you could say the rebellion started, how the rebellion has been working, how the rebellion has been able to fund themselves throughout this whole endeavor.
Yeah, because I mean, again, there's like definitely clear different points. I mean, Saw Gerrera's group, I think, was always like self-funded because it's like, even once we get to Rogue One, he's a very
Mm-hmm.
controversial figure.
Yeah, he's kind of crazy.
Yeah, he's a bit of a loon.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's definitely the rebellion is doesn't, I think, truly become like a homogenous thing until episode 4,
Mm-hmm.
basically, when they finally they get that really big victory destroying the Death Star and stuff. That's when it's like, okay, this is us, this is the rebellion. So in the early years, it's just a bunch of different factions of like rebels doing their own thing. Some of them getting funding from senators and the Imperial Senate, and then others are just straight up like, yeah, we're just crazy. let's just
Anarchy, man.
yeah. So I do like this sort of look of like, all right, here's Luthen and like to the extent Cassian sort of version of the rebellion where they're secretly funded by Imperial senators who do not like the way things are
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And then here we have we're probably, because I mean Saw Gerrera is going to show up, we know that for a fact. So we're going to get that other side of like, yeah, no, these are just a bunch of crazy guys who have legitimate beliefs. It's just that they take things a little too far, just a little too far.
A little too far.
So I think that's going to be the neat part, especially if we are getting a second season and stuff as well.
Yeah,
to see that whole develop.
What's interesting so far about Andor is again the fact that we are seeing like his. I think as I said in the last episode, we're seeing where he sort of like comes into his role as the character we would eventually see in Rogue One, and it's kind of interesting to see how reluctant he is, but kind of like he has no choice because like one, he's on the run.
Yeah, he's still wanted for those 2 murders
Mm-hmm.
he did. So he is in a very sort of like, he would like to very much just stay out of the conflict, but he knows at the end of the day this is his sort of best and really only ticket to like at least living a decent life.
Mm-hmm. Well, I want to say, and this is something I think it would be really cool. I don't think Star Wars is gonna do this. I don't think they want to go delve in that deep. But what if like the rebellion was filled with more like of these, not just reluctant people who had no choice in the same way that Andor himself is in, but also like, yeah, we've got some like criminals working with us.
Yeah, like sort of give it that a little bit of that moral gray of
Mm-hmm.
like, we had to like work with some sketchy people
Mm-hmm.
because they're the only ones that we can rely on to get this stuff done.
As much as people like shit on like Last Jedi, at least that conversation was had with
Benicio del Toro's character,
yeah, Benicio, yeah.
I forget his name, but he does have that sort of like, who do you think's funding all this stuff? It's like, both the Resistance and the First Order get, there's people like funding them both ways,
Mm-hmm.
playing both sides, and it's like, choose a side, doesn't matter. That both the same, I forget that character's accent, but he was a weird character.
He was a weird character, but he was kind of the.
Yeah, he was like probably the only like, I feel like people overlook him because he's
He's weird.
Yeah, because he's weird, but he also is the one that gives like probably like one of the most nuanced takes of Star Wars of like, hey, listen, both of these sides they're getting, there's people like that are working both sides.
Yeah,
I mean, that,
there's a moral gray area for some people. It's not just simple as things tend to be. People get screwed over, and like that's kind of like the whole like casino scene in general. But it's written so awkwardly into the film.
yeah, because I feel like the point of the casino scene in Last Jedi was to show that like, hey, there's just there's probably groups of people who don't even care about the outcome of
Because
who
it doesn't
wins.
affect them.
Yeah, because it doesn't affect them. They have all this money. They're gonna probably stay on top either way, kind of thing. But it's so awkward about it that it just really doesn't do much, and it's kind of just an annoying side trip, and that's what people mostly remember the whole casinos thing to be. It's just like, well, that was just a weird half adventure. What was that? What was the point of that?
Yeah, but like it goes to the point of like we were talking about earlier, like what I would like to see them do, but I don't think they're gonna go for it because like, and Cassian himself is like a is like a morally gray character, right? He does some good, but he's done some bad.
Yeah, straight up in that first episode, like he's just trying to justify, like, hey, listen, I didn't start this; they started it.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, there was a moment where he could have just, because the other officer was,
he was
him,
like
he was willing to give him an out, right?
Yeah,
Of just like, hey, listen, this was an accident.
because that's what it was.
Yeah, at the end of the day, it's like we fucked up. I know you fucked up. Let's just go to the station together, explain it, and we can both go our separate ways. And then he's like, no, fuck that.
Why?
No,
Because
no,
he was scared.
Yeah, he was scared, and also was like, no witnesses.
Yeah, no witnesses.
He should have turned the gun sideways.
Yeah,
Just like it's a kill shot.
kill shot.
Kill shot.
Kill shot. But no, like I would like to see more of that. We got some of that in like say the Clone Wars, but even then, there's still like this hints of like, yeah, but there's like still good guys and bad guys. There's never really a moment where you're like, okay, but these guys are still kind of shitty,
Mm-hmm.
Because at the end of the day, you're still gonna make the Empire a bad guy.
Yeah.
And well, and I guess I'm saying like I don't think they're gonna delve into that because I don't think this is the right. Actually, no, this might be the right show for it, but I don't think maybe not this early into the season, right?
Right.
Maybe next season we're like, because by the point of like Rogue One, he's already jaded. Like my man has no qualms of killing someone. Do you not remember how he like ruthlessly killed this dude in Rogue One?
I think I think so.
Yeah, I always go back to that, and then I was like, oh shit, this is like a different tone of a Star Wars film, and it's sort of like him getting to know was it Urso?
Jyn Erso, yeah.
Jyn Erso. He's like, okay, maybe there's still hope. So I feel like the more we go into like the Andor show, the more we kind of see how he became so jaded, because that's a very interesting like plot, idea of a story.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, no, I'm with you, and like that I'm enjoying this. My only like complaint right now is that it's kind of slow.
I can see that. I can see why that's sort of the case.
Mm-hmm.
Of like, oh, it's just it feels a bit slow.
Yeah.
I am more. I think I'm fine with the way it's working out so far, simply because, um, like I think it's all purposeful.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like it's there to help build up.
Yeah, because there's a lot of build up going on.
Yeah, build up like various things. Because right now, like it's building up this sort of like whole siege thing they're about to do of this Imperial armory, and it's building up the tension of like Andor having to meet all these new people who are very much like, hey, who the hell is this guy?
He could screw up the plan, man.
Yeah, he's a late addition, and he's not even using his real name for these people because he was told not to. So it's very much like okay, like it's like, okay, what is this gonna like lead to? Is this gonna be some sort of like what kind of conflicts is going to lead to? Is the plan going to go right? What's going to go wrong? All that stuff.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, I think it's there to help like build up tension and at least try to build up like at least Cassian's relationship to all these people. So he doesn't want to like it seems like it might lead into some conflict there. So you're just sort of waiting that stuff. I mean, as well as it's also like looking into all the other stuff, like with the Imperial inspectors. Like how there sort of seems to be a little bit of internal conflict of like, hey, I want to do this thing. This is part of my jurisdiction. It's like, no, fuck off. Hey, listen, rookie. New girl. All right, this is my stuff. Don't worry about this. And then we got the other leads with like Mon Mothma, and we're probably going to see what's going on with the Imperial Senate. It's a lot of like setup for stuff, and like
I will say, hearing that the fact that we might go into this the Senate, it makes you go like,
because you're sort of like,
let's just say it might be written better since George Lucas is not writing the Senate storyline.
No, I can see that
because the Senate stuff was really like it wasn't great. It wasn't great in the prequels.
No, I understand that. I mean, seeing probably. I mean, I think it would be at least interesting because now it's the Imperial Senate. It's not the Senate that we know.
True. They're all gonna be trying to like get like support
and favor from the Emperor. Heck, we in this episode, she comes back and I think it's her husband has invited some senators, and she's like, "Those guys screwed over some people. I'm not really big fans of them. Why did you invite them?"
Yeah.
So, yeah, clearly there's like conflict between all the senators and stuff, especially the ones that are like probably working to better the Empire rather than trying to bring back the Republic. So it could be more interesting this time around. I'm just saying.
It could be. Yeah, you're right. But it's a wait and see. Now, obviously, we're gonna go into She-Hulk, which is continuing again, which is something I'm so glad that they're doing with this show. Some people might not like some things about it, but what I like is that at least they're continuing through with their storylines. Because like last episode, meets a new guy who's clearly interested in her as Jen, because in the previous episodes it was a lot of like, hey, I like being She-Hulk because I could be this, and that. Most people don't like Jen. But I kind of want them to like me, and not just as She-Hulk, but also as Jen, because that is the whole plot point of this. The through line of this episode. Essentially, Jen and her day go well, and then she basically gets ghosted.
Yeah, more or less. They have a great time. Going
real great time.
Yeah, and then she's just like, hey, I had a great experience last night. Blah blah blah, and it's sort of just like, why isn't he answering me?
It's been 2 days.
Yeah, it's like
it's been 3 days now.
Yeah, it's like she's kind of going a little.
It's been 4 days now.
Yeah, she's kind of going a little like, why isn't he talking to me anymore? What's going on here? And in the meantime,
which is such like a real thing. If you ever been like, I've known people who are like do like the online dating scene, like, and they would be like after a date, they're like, "Hey, I had a fun time. When do you want to do this again?" And they're like, "No message."
More like sent unread.
Sent unread, or if you're very unlucky, sent read no response.
Where it's like they did read it and it was like, just gonna ignore that. Mm-hmm. You know, it's just very much like well, that's kind of
yeah, which is like, oh, you know.
Yeah. So it is. I think it's probably one of the more relatable moments of the series.
I do like how much relatability that She-Hulk has with like a lot of like audiences nowadays, right? Like there's a lot of stuff like, yeah, no, I've known people that are like that.
Yeah,
I've known people who went through that same situation.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, in this whole episode is sort of just like not only like she has to deal with that, she also has to deal with Blonsky. You know.
Yeah, because he might have. I don't think he did.
I don't think he did either. It seems like his little inhibitor collar that prevents him from turning into Abomination. His parole officer got like a little ping that it might have went off. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not functioning well. So they go to his retreat, which is very interesting.
I kept thinking, like, how the hell did he make this? I'm like, oh wait, he had like what 11 wives or something
that were sending him money and all that shit.
Yeah.
So yeah, you know, and it's just
how much money did they have?
I don't know.
This is like some Yogaville kind of shit.
Yeah, it's a very sort of like namaste, you know, like doing some weird shenanigans stuff here.
But at least it was working for people.
Mm-hmm.
But because she goes in and
she's very much just like trying to focus on like trying to get that message back, but she has no cell reception. There's no Wi-Fi. She's just like, and her guard gets messed up because there's other people that Blonsky's helping here.
Yeah, which he's following through on what he said, and Jen has to essentially, be part of the circle.
Yeah, she has to. She's sort of forced,
not a cult circle, but just
no, but like she's just sort of forced to hang out at this retreat, just being like, I just don't, just leave me alone. I want to try to work on stuff. I don't.
By work on stuff, I mean I hope this guy texts me back.
Yeah, so it's just very much that, and it does get to a point where she's just hanging out. She finally gets reception, and she's just sort of in the little corner while they're doing their little sort of like, so how have we been doing today? What's our issues and stuff? And we see a colorful cast of characters here. We have El Aguila, right?
Yeah.
Is this
Spanish matador?
I mean, he's not a matador. He's very much
say that.
He's like, I'm not a matador. I'm just very fashionable and flamboyant a little bit. And we have Man Bull.
I feel like I have to look up to see if these are actual characters.
Yeah, who is this half man, half bull genetic experiment gone awry? We have Porcupine, this guy who just he's in this weird porcupine suit.
Yeah.
I think they have a guy just named Stan, and he's a vampire. Like he says he's a vampire, and he's always on about like you suck their blood. Like stop
the fuck up.
Yeah, like because I mean obviously he's like
his father may be Dracula.
Yeah, so. I mean, he's never confirmed, but I mean, he's hanging out in the daylight, so is he really a vampire? Who knows? Mm-hmm. And a surprise guest shows up, and it's one of the wrecking crew, and Jen gets like, this guy, this asshole, and his friends try to jump me, and he's like, yo, calm down, and it's sort of like, yeah, no, I've reformed, listen, I learned that, using magical construction equipment just got all to my head and made me and my boys feel like we were supervillains and stuff, and I'm sorry about that. And she's sort of forced into the circle now, and they all have to talk about their problems, and she sort of just finally opens up.
Yeah, and we're not gonna give too much detail, but like it is a very very good emotional scene.
Yeah, and I think it highlights the main key difference between the main difference between what makes She-Hulk She-Hulk and what makes the Hulk. Like She-Hulk has her own problems.
Yeah.
And this is sort of her sort of expressing yeah, I'm the She-Hulk now, but I still have all these problems, and he just gets to me sometimes.
Yeah, because like the thing about She-Hulk is that it's not like I've talked this before. It's not a separate personality. It was never a separate personality. Yes, Hulk himself goes through a lot of trauma, but that's kind of like how he's written. Like it's like a different personality, different aspect of his psyche, all this stuff. With She-Hulk, she never really had that issue, but she still has issues to deal with.
Mm-hmm.
Just because you're not this abused kid, because it doesn't mean you yourself do not have problems in life. You could be suffering from like anxiety, lack of in whatever,
Yeah.
anything, like any issue that you feel like you have, that's a valid issue. There's a lot of people that tend to have that, and this is, like you said, it highlights that because Jen is not Hulk. She doesn't have that issue, but she does have these other issues to deal with, and so, like you said, this like pretty much emphasizes everything, because even she's like, yeah, as She-Hulk, I'm this, and that, but as Jen, I'm this, and that. Like, there's no good mix of the two.
Yeah.
And you can clearly tell this is where she's going to eventually have to learn to be, comfortable not just as She-Hulk, but as herself.
Yeah.
Which is such a good message to have.
Yeah, I think that's sort of I think that's gonna be like that's her big character developing moment for her, because I feel like she hasn't had a whole lot to, I guess, I'm not gonna say struggle, but like there hasn't been sort of like a character arc for her. Like obviously, like she's able to process her powers very well, and it's more of her reacting to various other things going on in her life, rather than just sort of like, oh, I need to figure out a way to, improve myself in a way, and this episode sort of like her acknowledging, yeah, no, I feel like these are my issues, and I really need to focus on.
Well, no, she has issues, but they were very like kind of like not really talked about, because it's about, like, remember, like the whole like, I am She-Hulk, that is who I am, and it's also like her coming to terms with that, but now she also has to come to terms with her being like, because of her coming to terms with being the She-Hulk, people are more interested in her as She-Hulk. She's like, oh, but like, do
What
they
about,
like,
yeah,
what about Jen?
Do they like me for being Jen, or do they just like me for being She-Hulk?
Yeah,
Kind of thing. Yeah.
yeah, and
okay,
then we go into what this episode is insinuating, and then as obviously we're gonna go as far as we go, she has to accept her role as She-Hulk and still be Jen.
And yeah, probably, and I think this is probably gonna be more or less the last bit of her character arc in the show, is more like accepting that she has, because what Bruce said earlier, it's like, hey, listen, we have powers, we have to do, be responsible, and we have to use them for good.
Yes, with great power comes great responsibility, Bruce. We've heard that 1,000 times.
Yeah, so I feel like that's more or less probably going to be the last bit of her sort of character development.
This is 9 episodes, right?
I think it is, yes. Where it's like, hey, yes, being a lawyer is my job. It's what I always wanted to do. But at a certain point, I have to step up and be a superhero. As much as I, didn't want it, at the end of the day, I gotta do what I gotta do. Yeah.
And also, plot points are coming back again, so we'll see how this turns out. But right now, I feel like this is like a very well-paced show.
Yeah, I think it is.
Because like a lot of times, they're either too long, stuff in too much, or too short and stuff in too much. Like for like the thing with Miss Marvel. As much as I enjoyed that first episode, it started like turning quality as it went along because it tried to stuff in too much.
And then it started trying to like, in that at a certain point, it wrapped some things up too quickly.
Yeah.
And not giving it enough time to like sit and stuff, But I think She-Hulk thankfully doesn't have that issue, I don't think.
No.
I will say we do learn what happened to Josh, the dude.
Yeah, we won't say what happened to him, but you'll see.
We do get like a last bit of like, oh, okay, that's what he's doing right now, So things to come.
Yeah, but again, it's such a nice scene. I really did enjoy that the sharing circle.
Yeah,
that was like such a nice, like just chill Rex thing. Not so much action, which I'm like, that's nice. I like that. Just a nice character moment.
Yeah, and I think that's what this whole episode is about, is just making character moment for Jen and having her sort of, like sit down and talk things out,
Well, guys, I think that's about it. And again, this is more on the shorter side, but again, we're trying to spoil too much when it comes to Andor and She-Hulk. I know we delved into a lot of big plot points of She-Hulk, but trust me when I say, like, the meat, we didn't even go into the meat of this sandwich.
Yeah, because I feel like the She-Hulk episode is very more of like, it's a talking episode. It's not, there isn't a whole lot of plot happening. It's more of the interactions she's having and like her opening up, and it's what's being opened up about her is what makes it important.
Mm-hmm. And obviously, we still have a lot of stuff to wait for. I mean, everyone knows Daredevil's coming back.
Yeah, it's a question of when and for how, how
and
much.
I will be talking at length when he comes back, because the Daredevil Netflix show was like one of my favorite shows of all time, and I will be. Well, I won't be as critical because I'm like, I understand what they're trying to do. It's not gonna be the same thing, but I at least want a level of good writing for my boy.
Right.
Like, there's not been a bad Daredevil run, and the show has emphasized that. But anyways, yeah, if you guys enjoy what you heard, be sure to follow us on all social medias, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. At Geek Centurions, we're most active on Instagram, where you'll find a link tree to all the podcasts that we're officially part of: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, etc. Also a link tree to the YouTube for all your audio listeners out there who want to put a face to the voice. That's where you'll find us. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and hit the bell icon. And we also have a Patreon for support in any form of way. We just really have it up there if anyone ever decide to support us. But yeah, thanks for checking us out. She-Hulk and Andor are probably so far one of the better shows on Disney Plus.
Yeah, I think She-Hulk I think has been pretty good for what it is.
And I think it goes back to like what I was saying earlier. These shows aren't written to be like shows; they're written to be one-offs. This feels like it's written to be a show.
Yeah, like it does feel like, I think out of all the past three Disney Plus shows, Moon Knight, Miss Marvel, and now She-Hulk. She-Hulk has the most like interconnective tissues to the MCU. I mean, Miss Marvel obviously has a bit at the end where it sort of ties up. Okay, we're getting ready for the the Marvels movie. Moon Knight is very disconnected, and it makes sense for his character. But for She-Hulk, it really is sort of making use of being like a showcase of like, hey, here's a bunch of different stuff happening in the Marvel universe that you probably don't really have time to notice about,
Yeah, and it's nice to see one, like, there being more than just the stuff that you see from superheroes, right? Because like oftentimes it's like, oh, there's a superhero there, there's this going on, that's not gonna matter. But it's like, oh yeah, there's like a man bull.
Yeah,
and this like random dude, just like a quote unquote matador. Even if he says he's not one, there's a dude who's like in a suit. There's a goddamn supposed vampire, which I'm like, yeah, no, this is actually expanding more of the world.
It is. It's weirdly like kind of like showcasing. Yeah, this is a comic book universe, and there's a bunch of weird stuff that just goes around sometimes that you don't really, that doesn't really get much notice. So yeah, and also with Andor, it's a very pleasant surprise. Again, like I said last week, if you were to tell me that we were gonna make a show about Andor, I'm very skeptical about it. But the way they're treating it and the way it's coming out is a pleasant surprise, and I am here for it.
It's on the better side of a lot of stuff. Hopefully, this continues a trend. I know recent Marvel's been being a little right now, but hopefully they'll put it back up because there's a lot of good content they have over there. But yeah, that's the end of the episode. It's been me, your boy Eli.
It's me, Joe.
You guys have a good one. Peace.